Okay, so basically when the package arrives, this is what you should be expecting to see. As you can see, written on the top is the starter pack number there. That is for the Multistrada 1260. It's number 48. It's all really easy to choose actually from the website. There's a little drop-down menu. You can see there which one you need. There's also an ES14, which I think denotes the Multistrada 1260S. That is the box it comes in. We're going to open this up ever so quickly together and see what's inside and what we actually have to do here. Well, that's it. That's the box open, and that is what you will see when you open it up for yourselves. This company is actually part of, from what I'm led to believe, Cycle Works out of California. They're kind of not famous, but more known for their belts, their timing belts for the Ducatis, and this is their UK arm, from what I'm led to believe anyway. If I am wrong, please feel free to correct me. But these came from Exact Fit, and there's a little kind of pamphlet in there to tell you all about why you should choose them, etc., etc. Now, if you are thinking of upgrading your cables, please take my advice, get this pack specific for your bike, because there are probably other companies out there that say that they can supply all the bits you need to get better cranking for your Ducati. Just get the best you can afford. I mean, these are sub 100 quid and they will or should make a world of difference. We're going to find out pretty soon. So what else do we get in here then? We've got the welcome kind of sheet there telling you all about them, and then you get this little piece here which tells you what these cables are for, i.e. which bikes they fit. And I'm assuming in here we should have a copious amount of instructions on how to fit these, and I'm hoping you, after watching this, will have a much better idea than I do, because I'm going to be basically doing this blind from the instructions, but I'll do it all on video for you guys, so that should hopefully make things a little bit easier. I'm wondering if there are any pictures in here. I haven't seen any. Ah, here we are, that's better. So there's the Multistrada, so you basically get a nice little diagram there of what you need to do, where you need to run the wires, all that kind of good stuff. So that's going to be really, really useful. But as I said, I'm hoping the video is going to be helpful to you guys as well. And there are the cables themselves. You do get a little bit of sandpaper, because they do suggest that you clean up the original connections, you know, just sand them off a little bit. I mean, you can have the best cables in the world, but if the connection is slightly corroded or got any crap on there at all, it's not going to give you the best connection you can possibly have. So if you're going to go to the trouble of doing this job, I would suggest doing exactly what they say. Sand off all the connections that you can see. There are only 3, maybe 4. You've also got some dielectric compound there, which you should also put on, because obviously, bearing in mind, a motorcycle engine is open to the elements. So if you put some dielectric compound on there, grease effectively, that should eliminate any kind of future rust issues. So you've got some of that in there. They've even given you cable ties and looks like, and also some isopropanol wipes there as well, just to keep everything super, super clean, and a nice little keychain in there. Perfect. So this will be basically the replacement for your solenoid. This will go directly from your battery to your solenoid, so that's really, really simple. And then we've got this big bad boy here that will effectively go from the starter motor under the bike to the other part of the solenoid. It'll all become really, really obvious once we start undoing things. So that's your main live leads there, those two. And then that is simplicity itself. It's just going to be the earth from the battery to the earth on the bike. In other words, there's going to be a dirty great big nut somewhere on the bike, and we'll undo that. You'll see it, because obviously it'll have other earths attached to it. We'll find out where that is when we get out to the bike, and that will be the bit that fits onto the battery, and that bit there will fit onto the engine earth mount, basically. Nice and simple. So that's what you get inside the box. Hoping that's been of some interest. We are now going to get out to the bike, and I am going to go and do this on the camera as much as I can to help you guys along if you decide to go for this yourselves. And hopefully, because I have seen no videos for the 1260S upgrading the cables, all I've ever found is a 1200 DVT. I'm assuming it's very, very similar, but they didn't use the exact start cables. They used some American huge big thick cables. I don't know where they got them from. Anyway, we are going to use the exact start stuff, and I will show you, and I will leave links in the description, and I'm hoping this video is going to help you out if you decide to do this yourself, and then we'll test it. We'll basically find out if this helps, and we'll just do a little comparison to see how these help with the cranking of the bike. Anyway, enough waffle. Let's get out to the bike, get these bad boys fitted, and see what it's all about. Okay, well, I think the best solution before we get underway with this is to make sure that the battery that's on the bike is absolutely as charged as it can be. I'm going to charge it up quickly now using the Tender, which we've already fitted, and the Top Don Tornado 4000. If you haven't got one of these, I highly, highly recommend you get one. They are absolutely superb chargers for cars and motorcycles. I'll stick a link in just up here for the review we did on this a few months ago, maybe even a year ago now. That's the Tornado 4000. As I said, if you haven't got one, check out the video. Really, really recommend it. I use it on everything. So, as I said, what we're going to do is get this battery on the Multistrada charged up to 100%, and then we'll give it a quick start and see what the problems are, as in the slow cranking. So I can give you a quick example of that. We'll get the cables fitted together, and then we'll start it up all over again, and we'll see what the differences are. Do these cables work? Should you get some? So if you're interested in that, keep watching. We'll get into this. So one of the first things we're going to have to do, guys, is obviously take the seat off, as we have done here. And in the instructions, which we briefly kind of looked over when we did the unboxing, we need to take off this little side panel here in order to release the canister there to get better access. So that is the first job we are going to do. So after my usual faffery, that is it, guys. The battery is out. I've taken off the tender lead as well, and some weird little kind of bracketry and relay here. Again, I think I've mentioned it in another video. I have no idea what this does. It's obviously aftermarket. I can only assume by the fact that it runs seemingly towards the front of the bike, it was for spotlights that somebody had on this bike before I bought it. I asked the dealer, Laguna, and they didn't seem to know either, and it doesn't look very clever, so I might just have done with that, get rid of it. It doesn't seem to do anything, so but that's another story. We're not going to get into that today. The side panel is off, as you can see. The battery is out, and we are going to now refer back to the instructions and see what it tells us to do next. Now, looking at the instructions here, guys, it does say to remove the vertical cylinder coil cover and then remove the charcoal canister. This is effectively what we're doing here. We've got to take this bolt out here. This will loosen off this, and I'm assuming that comes out of the way then. I'm literally going to be doing this exactly the same as you would be doing it. So, you know, I'm not a mechanic. This isn't a tutorial per se. It's a review of the exact start cables and how you will find fitting them if you do it to your own bike, because I couldn't find anything else. Anyway, as I said, you take off the left panel, take out the back battery, and then you've got to take out this little bolt here, and if there's anything else I find in here, I'll let you know in a second. Alright, slight cock up from my point, I think, because it does show you the top of this and to take this little rubber cap off here, but this is actually the cover for the rear shock, so I don't understand how I can do anything with that. It doesn't actually go anywhere. You can't really move that out the way, so I'm not actually sure if that's just a slight confusion from the 1200 to the 1260. Bearing in mind this has got electronic suspension, this is the S model, so maybe there's some crossover confusion there, because it talks about taking out the bracket for the canister. If we just pop up here a second, it says remove the charcoal canister from its bracket by sliding it upwards. Now the charcoal canister is, unless I'm completely insane, this thing here. So we're going to take that off and see where we are, and I'll cut back and let you know. Okay, well, as you can see, guys, we can get the charcoal canister out of the way nicely by just moving this little bolt out of the bracket here, and then the whole thing kind of slides out of the way because it's only held in by that little, I don't know if you can see my finger here, just there. And then obviously, as I said, you take that out, you can move this out of the way. This is all in preparation, of course, for running the cables. Anyway, I'm going to quickly look at the instructions again, see what the next stage is, and cut back in. Onwards and upwards, as they say. There was no mention that I could find about taking off this kind of sump guard here. I'm not sure if that's because not all of these 1260 Multistradas have that, or if it was just omitted, or whether again it's a crossover from the 1200 DVT versus the 1260. Anyway, it looks like we can just take out these few bolts here, and it looks like it actually divides there, so it looks like we might be able to split it, because effectively what we're doing is we're tracing this earth wire here all the way down. You'll see it, I believe it comes in, sorry, here, and then it pops down here, and then it pops down here. That's the last place I can see it, just there. So obviously we're going to have to take this out to get it connected to the engine block for the earth. I'm going to get this off, and then I'll give you another little look-see, and you can see what's behind there. I would suggest you get a little pick tool like this and pick out all these little kind of bolt holes here, because they will be, of course, because it's so close to the ground, they will be covered in crap, and they may have stuff in there. And the last thing you want to do, of course, is round them off, as I almost did, because there's one just literally underneath here somewhere, and I almost rounded that off, but I decided to get my little pick tool, pick it out, and it just pops straight out. Anyway, I'll cut back in a sec, guys, and we'll carry on. So as usual, I created far more work for myself than I needed to. We did need to remove, well, not remove, but move out the way the charcoal canister. I didn't need to take off that side of the belly pan, as it were, the sump guard, because it looks like all you actually needed to do, I found this out by coming underneath here, is if you take out the bolt that goes right in the middle, just there, I'm hoping you can see my finger, just there, the whole thing just drops down and is pivoted by these ones here. So I've just caused a load of heartache and hassle for myself that I didn't need to do. So if you have got one of these, all you really need to do is drop the lower one. You might have to take this one out here as well, I think, and then the whole thing should drop down. I've actually taken the whole side off the other side, which was stupid, didn't need to. Anyway, that is where we need to be. We need to basically run the earth cable, well, the starter cable rather, all the way down to there. What we do is we will put some WD-40 on there, some penetrative fluid, and we'll get that off and run the new cable. So we are over by the starter motor, as you can see. If you ever wondered where your Ducati oil filter is, it's right there, just underneath this little thing here. Anyway, as you can see, we have taken out now the original starter cable, as it were. That is it there. You can clearly see the difference between the sizes there as well. Just have a look at that bit there compared to that. It's twice the size, basically. But I would suggest you do what they say and clean up this little bolt here, this little stud, with the sandpaper they give you, and get some of that blah-de-blah, the dielectric compound as well. Stick a little bit of that on there. They do suggest you do that. The better the connection, the better cranking, basically. So we're going to sand that off a little bit, get some of this dielectric compound on there, connect this up, and that will be the starter cable done, basically, for this part of the job. That's all cleaned off. As you can see, there is a nice big glump of the dielectric compound on there. All we need to do now is basically just connect this up with the original nut. Unless there's a nut that they've given us, I'll find out and I'll let you know in a second. So that's that part of the job done, basically. We've done the starter cable all the way up to the solenoid. Got to put all this crap back together now from my little faux pas earlier on. And we will start on the smaller solenoid cable and the earth to the engine block as well. That's going to be interesting, but I'll talk you through that in a second when I get off the floor. Okay guys, it now becomes pretty obvious why we've got to remove, or at least get out of the way, the charcoal canister here, because as you can see, you get that out of the way, that is the bracket for it. That, by the looks of things, needs to come off so we can get to the engine earth and run that along the same parallel kind of line as the starter motor live. It took a little bit of working out, I've got to say, because as I said, I think a lot of these instructions are for the 1200 DVT, and they kind of cross them over, as it were. But you know, hopefully this video is going to help you guys out. So as you look back at it here, there's your charcoal canister. That basically screws into there. That's the bracket. You got to get the bracket off. And up in there, guys, is where you're looking to replace the cable. Just there. That is the engine earth there. We've got to get that off, basically, and run the new cable up to the solenoid. Hope that helped a little bit. There is the canister again, to give you a little reference. It's just up in there. Took me a couple of minutes, but we worked it out. Okay, so we've got the earth lead back up in here now. If we just move this out of the way, you'll see it comes up just here. So we've got the earth, which will fit straight onto the battery. We've got the, where are we? The solenoid cable run to the starter motor. In theory, we would now run a cable from the other side of the solenoid directly to the battery, but I'm a bit confused because the current one seems to split in two, and the one we've got, I don't think it does. So I'll have to have a little look at that, and I'll get back to you. Okay, well, after a bit of confusion where this single cable goes compared to the double cable, obviously, that's in place on the solenoid now, the final cable we've got to fit, I rang Stu up from Exact Cables, lovely guy, and he basically said, well, you should have read the instructions, which, you know what I'm like, I never read the instructions, but if I'm honest, I didn't see any mention of what he said. He said basically what you do is you just piggyback it. So instead of taking off like you would the one to the starter motor and the one to the crankcase, you actually take those out, as you know, because we've got them over there. The shorter of the solenoid cables here, the one that goes to the battery, you actually leave the original in place and then you piggyback it with this new one, if that makes sense. We're going to put it on, I'll show you a picture of that anyway, but I didn't see anywhere in the instructions where it mentioned actually doing that, so maybe I've just had a frazzling hot day, but we'll do it. He was ever so helpful. We'll get this done and I will chime back in. We're getting there, guys. That is the earth cable to the crankcase. This is the piggyback cable that we're going to use right over here. And the starter cable is obviously already in underneath this little lot over here. So we've just put that little cap back over. Effectively, all we're going to need to do now is put everything back together, connect the earth, connect the positive to the battery, get it all back in, and we will start this bike for the first time together, and I will show you exactly what this does, if it does anything. I mean, at the end of the day, we're only speculating that this stuff actually works. I've never tried it. We are going to go through this together. As I always do with my videos, at the end of the day, you'll see it warts and all. There's no hiding anything, and this will be exactly how you will do it if it comes to you. You know, I'm not a professional mechanic. These are some of the little problems you might come across. There was no mention of taking off the sump guard that I could see. There was no mention of having to piggyback these two together that I could see. But Stu was only a phone call away. His telephone number is on his emails anyway, so you can always give him a call, and if you get stuck or anything like that. But hopefully this video will help you out. We're going to put all this back together now, basically, and hopefully start the bike up for the first time. Stand by. So all the connections are back in now, guys. As you can see, I will talk you through this little jamboree over here in a second. All that noise is at the moment you can hear is the suspension, electronic suspension kind of resetting itself, because as you can see by the dash up there, I am now going to have to put in the date, the time, all sorts of good stuff. This doesn't seem to want to fit back in its place anymore, and that is probably because we piggybacked their cable with the original cable, so this won't fit back in properly anymore. No mention of that either. Anyway, this is the first start. We're going to do it together. Do these cables actually make any difference whatsoever? Let's find out. Well, I would say, bearing in mind that this isn't a new battery and it's only been charged up once over the winter, yes, I think it does make a marked difference. I would say probably 40% difference. I mean, it's not twice as fast, it's not as good as some of the videos I've seen in the past, I have to say, but it is better, much better. Would I recommend it? Yeah, why not? I mean, it's not a difficult job necessarily. It's a bit fiddly. The instructions, I even spoke to Stuart about this, the instructions, the pictures tend to be more for a 1200 DVT than the 1260, so there are some differences. I'm hoping that you guys will have spotted those in this video. One of them being that you've got to take this little cover off here, that's the coil there, just to get the wire in behind there. You've got to take off the cover for the water pump as well. You've got to take off the engine guard, they don't mention that. And lastly, because of these cables, now I've got an Optimate, a trickle charger per se here, and with the 3 cables now that we've got going to the positive terminal, plus my one for the trickle charger, the bolt for the battery, the original bolt, is nowhere long enough. I mean, obviously, as you can see, it's going through all of that now, so I had to replace it with a longer bolt. Not ideal, but again, no mention of that on the instructions, which is a little bit strange. But all I've got to do now is basically tidy all this up, get some cable ties in there. I will cut back in when it's all back together, and I'll give it one final start and give you my final kind of conclusions on the job. So that is it, guys. The cables are in and we are back together, as you can see. No mean feat. I mean, I was kind of budgeting myself around about an hour to do this because I figured, well, it's only 3 cables. How long could it possibly take? The instructions did seem very comprehensive, and they were, to be fair. But there was a couple of things that I wasn't overly happy with. It seems to me most of the pictures are actually of a 1200 DVT, not the 1260S, which is what I have here. But the cables are the right length, so that's all good. There was a bit of confusion on the solenoid side of things, as we spoke about just now. The fact that the cables are in there means everything's pushed up ever so slightly, like the bracket that holds the battery in place, but that's fine. You know, you just tighten up a little bit more and it all seems fine. As you can see, there's nothing untoward. We'll give it one last little start just so you can see now everything's back together. You know, as I said, I've got to basically get in there now and reset all these settings because we took the battery out. It's got to do its preload calibration as well, which is a bit of a pain in the bum, but as I said, because we've disconnected the battery, this is what happens effectively. It has to go through a certain amount of cycles, and it looks like we're in. I'm going to reset everything obviously in this menu afterwards, but we'll give it a quick start and you can tell for yourselves whether you think it's made a difference or not. So that is it, guys. That is the exact start, cables fitted and running lovely, I have to say. I've actually started it up 2 or 3 times since the last start that we did together, and it does make a huge difference. It's at least 50% better than it was before, so it's definitely worth doing. Sub £100. The link is in the description, and as always with these kind of things, don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Do go to the proper sites to get these kind of things, because you know that the cables you're going to get are going to be what you need, not just some old Chinese bit of knockoff crap that is going to probably catch fire on the engine or some bloody drama like that. Exact Cables have been doing this for a very long time. They know what they're doing and they supply the best cables. Although, as I said, there was a couple of little confusing points, I guess, in that respect, but hopefully this video will help you when you decide to fit yours. But that is it. If you have enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, give the video a thumbs up, a like and a share, all that kind of good stuff, and follow the series along as well. We've got some other things coming along for this bike, and they'll be posted soon. So we'll catch up in a couple of weeks' time and we'll see what else we can add to this beautiful 1260 Multistrada. As I said, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, a like and a share, and we'll catch up soon. Take care.